weeks of talking about softball, it's time to play some softball. Welcome everybody to the Prairie League podcast. I'm Andrew Breathauer, and it's opening weekend for the GPLS with 170 games on the schedule between the 104 teams that are in this league. So it's going to be an amazing weekend to finally get everybody out on the diamond. Opening weekend. Looks like it's going to be some great weather as well. So it should be no problem getting in all 170 games. If just to tell you how big everything has gotten, that we need 2 cities, multiple diamonds. It's going to be a huge weekend. So I hope everyone has a lot of fun this weekend, enjoys himself. I hope there's some competitive softball, which, hey, that's just the nature of the whole game. So there's going to be a lot of competitiveness out there. I just hope everyone enjoys their time. I'm running solo today as my co-host Kara Lyons is going to be actually out on Friday for opening weekend. I believe out in Stony Plain she's going to be trying to talk to some players, coaches. So if you do see her out there, go sit up and say hi, because we're going to try and get a lot more players onto this podcast and start trying to feature some of the players that are in this league and some of the coaches and other people that make up. So she's going to be out there asking questions. Don't be shy. Just go up and talk. Explain who you are, who you play for, why you play this game. There's a lot to talk about. So like I said, coming up in the future on this podcast, we're hoping to start talking to the players as well and just featuring them, see who they are. So she'll be out there. But as for today, I'm running by myself, but we still got a good show. We're actually going to talk to Mark Maxwell, who's the U16 coach of the St. Albert Angels. Kind of an interesting subject when you talked with Mark is that he has kind of the best of both worlds in a sense that he's the coach, but he also has 3 daughters playing this league, and he's been in this league himself, starting from U12 with his oldest daughter and now coaching U16. So he's seen the growth and development. So we're going to talk to him about just, what it's been like being a parent in this league, but also being a coach and just how everything's kind of grown. So we will get to that. First, we should mention, like I said, there's a lot going on. It is opening weekend. If you haven't noticed, it is Mother's Day too. So girls, go thank your moms. Let's be honest. None of us are here without our moms today, even myself. Go thank them for the, the effort they do and for everything they've provided you for this in this game. And if you are available from what I can tell, there's a Mother's Day brunch going on in Calahoo on May 13th at 10 a.m. at the Calahoo Community Hall. There's tickets still available. Everyone's welcome. Go treat them on Sunday. If you're not playing a game, which I'm not sure if there's games going on at 10, but probably there are, but still, treat your mom. It's going to be a good weekend. Everyone should be enjoying their time, not just the players, parents too. Hope everyone has an absolute amazing weekend. From what it looks like, weather's looking plus 20s. So considering how long winter seemed to stick around and never wanted to go away and just kept coming back in, and I think it was the tantrum, just coming back in and another thing. Oh no, winter's gone. It's time for opening weekend, and a huge weekend. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, 170 games. So you can only tell how big this league has gotten just by how many games now on a single weekend. And you also have to remember, this is the first time that all the A teams and the B, both divisions, have come together to have one opening weekend. So it's probably been a scheduling nightmare. It's probably been a lot of effort by a lot of people. So if you see some of the volunteers that are sure out there, or thank anyone you can, because this weekend would not be possible without them and the effort they put into this weekend. It's just, it takes a lot of people to put on, especially 170 games. We all obviously hope that the weather stays the way it is so we can get in all 170 games, but it should just be all around a great weekend. So without further, we're going to go talk to Mark. Like I said, interesting subject to talk about, someone who's been on there from a parent perspective, but also a coaching perspective, and to really see how the league has developed. To give you a little bit of information before we hand it off to Mark, when he started coaching in U12, there was only 4 teams. So you didn't really get the same competition that you do get today. So if you think about the teams you're playing, you may only be playing them once a season because there's so many teams to go and play now. Whereas before, you maybe played the same team multiple times because that's all you had. So there's a lot more competition, and that's what really this league has been about, is driving the competition and offering weekends such as the opening weekend where you come in there and you play as 4, 5, 6 games in a weekend. And that's really why the GPLS is around and why this league keeps growing, because everyone sees that level of competition that's in this league and wants to be a part of it. So let's give it to Mark, and we'll see what it's been like to not only be the coach, but also the parent. Here we go.
I guess just from a parent standpoint, this must be extremely convenient to have a league where you don't have to do a lot of travel, and you can kind of, as you mentioned, you have 3 daughters. It must help to go to one city and not have to be traveling, to 3, 4 different cities in a weekend.
Oh, absolutely. That's been one of the biggest things, and I think I've heard in some of your previous podcasts that talk about, how it was always a scramble at the start of the season to look for those tournaments that you think the right teams are going to be there, and every coach has different thoughts, but now everybody's aligned to that. Hey, let's play Prairie League, and let's all go to the spots where the best teams are going to be, and we know that right from the start of the year. And yeah, we can take our trailer or book a hotel room, and we're all in the same spot, because with 3 girls playing, you can't play a man-to-man defense. You have to go zone. So if they're all there, it's much easier.
That's the best way I've ever heard someone putting it that way. So, and being able to watch them too, and then from just a parent perspective, not having to pick or choose kind of what kid. Not going to say which one's your favorite, but not having to choose which one's your favorite.
Yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic when I'm staying on third base trying to give kids some signals at home plate, and I'm looking across at the other diamond to see my other daughter hitting at home plate. And we've actually had times when all 3 of them are playing at once. So, we kind of, between my wife and I, we kind of have our head on a swivel, so to speak.
And you did touch on it about the competition level, and that must be, I guess, from a coaching perspective, great to see that you can go to one city and you're getting teams from all over. Because from being in St. Albert, you don't have to. You're not just playing, say, Alberta teams. You're also getting the Saskatchewan teams, and now guest teams from Manitoba and BC. You're getting a good grouping of good teams every weekend are going to come to these cities.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And my first experience was back in I think 2012 was the first year my experience with the GPLS started at the U14 level. I think that was the first year they had at the U14 level, and all of a sudden you knew those teams that were going to be there, and you knew how competitive it was going to be. And then you had the guest teams. I even think they had one year where they had a U.S. team come up in and for a trial basis, and the scope is growing, and you're playing teams. As much as it's great to play, Sherwood Park and the Warriors and the Adrenaline, you get to know those teams really, really well. But then when you start playing some Saskatoon teams and maybe even some Manitoba teams, wow, that's really exciting for the girls and really kind of pushes the envelope. I've taken a team to the U.S. before, and to certainly Canada Cup, and that's even to get that experience sort of locally is just great, right?
And it's probably better for the development to, as you mentioned, if you play the same teams all the time, you kind of get used to them. You need to be pushed every once in a while and play someone you don't know.
Yeah, and there's some thoughts out there that playing the same team over and over again is like you lose a strategic advantage. So people feel like they maybe don't want to do that. But yeah, with the way the GPLS is going now, we have enough guest teams and new teams coming in. It's just too beneficial to stay there and play that great mix of teams.
And especially with the growth, as you mentioned, with this league, it's now up to 104 teams. And I think when you started back in 2012, I think U12, there was only 4 teams in U12.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've lost count of how many there is now, but to see the growth, I guess you've added that much competition, and it's not just the same 4 teams. Now there's a possibility you could go in a weekend and you're going to play this opening weekend. It's going to be different teams, and you're going to play in the Pink Sock weekend or the All-Star weekend.
Exactly. Like sometimes it's almost like, oh wow, like when do we play them? You're looking at your schedule and you're wanting to know when you can play these teams, and it's you're going to get a great mix of teams, but you don't necessarily get to play everybody anymore because there's so many, which is really exciting.
How does that change, I guess, your mentality as a coach then, when you have to actually now look at your schedule and be like, well, we don't have this team until then. How do we get maybe prepared for them? Or
yeah, that's a really interesting question. Like, I don't know how much you know about the coaching world, but certainly as much as the softball league, but the coaching has kind of changed with the advent of iPads and technology, where everybody uses these game changer apps now, and you're tracking spray charts and kids' averages on other teams. And, it can, I think that's back to like some people feel, well, if they have too much data on my players, it's not really good. But, I think that's ball, right? You want to be able to, when you get to provincials or maybe even start doing the nationals or even other tournaments, you're just not going to have all this data on kids, and you just got to play ball. And that's really what it comes down to, is just, practicing really well and being ready to play against any pitching that you might see or not see. So
It seems interesting at the even at a U16 or lower level that you have all that data and that you kind of do needed to have, that slight little advantage, especially when now you maybe only see a team once a year.
yeah, yeah, that's a good point.
How does that change drastically maybe over the years of you coaching, where it's now you're introducing more analytics, and it's odd to say now we're in an analytical world. If you look across sports, everyone's doing the analytics. So how has that
Yeah.
drastically changed for you guys?
Well, I don't think we're quite at the Moneyball level yet, but we've certainly, it certainly has changed a lot, and it is quite striking when you can take advantage of that. And it's always a balance with the girls, right? You don't want to really spend too much time on those data analytics with them, because it can create certain anxiety or emotional responses where you just want to kind of positively reinforce them for what they do. But yeah, it's I'm guilty of being a little bit of an analytical geek myself. I'm an engineer, so I can work a spreadsheet. So I like to have some advantages to make decisions on the field for sure.
Is there also a little advantage to having weekends, and rather than going off and playing on a Monday night and then maybe playing on a Friday and only playing a pocket of games here or there, but actually going to a weekend and putting your whole strength in just a one weekend?
Yeah, and I think that's another really interesting nuance to the growth of softball in Alberta, is that we have this great Prairie League opportunity now that's really become something really viable. But that's not just, as you say, it's not just those 4 weekends. It really kind of drives the whole the whole organizational piece of it. And I don't mean like an individual association. I mean like everybody, because you have to play through week to continue to get better. And there's great organizations out there, certainly in Edmonton, the EYSA, Edmonton Youth Softball, is trying to, make that league as viable as possible too. But, as all those teams start getting better, they want to make sure the competition is strong in all those regular leagues, right? So it's really making everybody kind of better, and makes everybody think about, where's the best place to compete, right? So I think from an overall dynamic, it's really all stepping stones, whether it's your week leagues, or midweek leagues, and then your weekend leagues, and that forces you to practice differently. It forces you to get players developed differently. It forces, not forces, but it really has girls looking at, hey, this is a great destination now. I have a GPLS where I'm playing good competitive ball. I'm not playing games that either I'm getting beat every weekend, or I'm losing every game, or winning a lot every game. So it really gets that balance. And then, that really starts cascading down through associations, right? And then you got the college side of it too, with with the folks that come and meet with us at the GPLS events for the college side of it. Like it's creating that critical mass, if you will, for growth and development.
And if growing is never, I guess, a bad thing, especially when you've jumped in this league, has jumped up 30, 40 teams in a year. That's just 30, 40 more competitive teams that you're having that are kind of going through the motions as well of playing during the week, and needing that spot to have a very competitive weekend so that they can test the girls and see, where they stand provincially, where they stand, on a national level, or all those different levels. You need that if you want to grow, and especially look at colleges or bigger teams like that.
Exactly. It's, it really, what it takes, there's some girls that want to play recreationally, and that's absolutely perfect, right? We want them to develop a habit or a hobby for life of athletics, right? But for those girls that want to, go down that competitive stream, we want to be able to enable them to see that, oh, yeah, I can do this, at U12, I can do this at U14, 16, 19, college, maybe in the States, maybe, provincial teams. And so I find that path becoming a little bit more blazed, if you will, or like it's pretty clear that these girls have that option if they so choose to take it. As before, it took a lot of work on their part or their parents' part.
And when you see, I guess, from one of your daughters starting off to where the league has come now, and now your youngest is kind of starting in the league, Does that make, I guess, look for you as a parent that, hey, there's going to be now a stream for even my youngest now to kind of work her way up and to maybe do something else within softball?
Yeah, as a parent and as a coach, kids are going to choose what they want to choose, but the fact that they're going to have all the opportunities they need to make those choices is absolutely great. So my youngest is at 14A now, and my middle one's at 16A, and my oldest is at 19A, and they've all had the great opportunity to play in the Prairie League, and a couple have had the chances to play in all-star games, and that's pretty exciting for them. And they've made tons of friends through that process, and them having friends is a big part of it. Being wanted to stay connected to that group, and very important for female athletes to feel that connection and acceptance, and that just sets them free to do whatever they want.
And it would kind of also seem too, for that friendship part and the companionship, that it's not just one team you're worrying about. Like, you can go to a weekend and they're going to see the same players, the same people across from 2 provinces, 3 provinces every single weekend, and you kind of can bond over the game.
Yeah, exactly right. When they had a junior women's national team tryout here recently, and my 2 oldest daughters went to that, and there probably really wasn't any unfamiliar faces in that whole big group from across all of Alberta and Saskatchewan too, right? So it really is a bit of a core group, or a fraternity, or I don't think that's the right term, but it really is a collective for sure. Could I offer one other quick association kind of plug here?
Sure.
Just back to growth and development. I think the thing for us at Fastball St. Albert is we've been around for a long time. I think you guys picked up on that in your last podcast, and we actually have I have a girl on my team this year that her mother actually played for the Angels, so we're over 30 plus years strong. And the key for me, and I think I want to highlight this, is that we have a U6 program with 50 kids in it, and a U8 program with close to 30 kids in it. And that's when it really starts for developing softball players. And as much as they don't maybe see the GPLS or the Prairie League and say, oh, I really want to do that at this point, but their parents do, right? And they see that coordination and those opportunities. And so we, as an association of close to 250 ball players in Fastball St. Albert, that's really what we're trying to do is grow our association, and having leagues like the Prairie League is just the best part of it, right? It's just, I've seen that development from, when my kids started at U6 and U8 to now, the opportunities that people see beyond it. It's just so easy to help market the sport of softball.
Yeah, it's not just anymore just from worrying about a little bit in age group. It's growing all around, and as you mentioned, down from U6, and there's now a stream of where they can go and to get them to the next level. But it all starts, grassroots to get to into those major leagues like Prairie League.
Yeah, it's no longer about trying to find the best players at U14 and get them to play for you. For us, it's about growing them from within and keeping a nice, strong association, and just that whole development piece. And having a recreational stream, absolutely critical. But hey, we wouldn't mind being on those top 4 listings for provincial success as well.
So that was Mark Maxwell, coach with the U16 St. Albert Angels, and also a parent of, I guess you could say, 3 generations of GPLS players. A lot of interesting information, and just kind of, again, shows you how much this league has developed and how much it's grown, but how much it's also been to have weekends where, you only have to travel to one city and you get to play a lot of competitive softball. It's not something you get in a lot of different leagues and in a lot of different sports. There's usually a lot of travel that goes into sports, so it's great to have a city or a league where you can just go to one city and play a lot of games. And that's what opening weekend and Pink Sox and All-Star Weekend and Championship, it's all about that, about getting in a lot of competition without having to do a lot of travel. Because you got to think, you're playing teams all across Alberta, Saskatchewan. Now we're even adding Manitoba. BC teams are coming in. This league is growing. You're getting more teams. You're going to have more, and who knows, maybe there's going to be more weekends. I'm sure they don't want me saying that because I'm sure they have enough as it is, but who knows what's going to happen in the future when you start adding more teams, because more competition is better. Everyone develops better when you have more competition and more different teams. As Mark kind of pointed out, there is that thought that if you play somebody different, you actually grow. If you keep playing the same teams, you kind of get used to their style of play. So you kind of do need someone new to test your abilities, and you do need to play better teams. If you don't play someone better, you kind of stay at the level that you're at. So you do need to jump up, and you do need to play someone better, and it's always great for competition. It's only going to make you a better player. It's only going to make your team a better team. And especially when you go on to provincials and westerns and even nationals, it's only going to make you a better overall player. And who knows where you're going to go from there. So there's the sky's the limit in terms of going to universities and colleges, and someday perhaps playing for the national teams. There's a lot of opportunities in softball. But it all does start from weekends such as this in these smaller communities, everyone coming together to play, just play this game. So I really do hope everyone enjoys their weekend out there and just has fun, because that's what it's about. And I'm sure everyone in the GPLS will be on me with that when I say just go out there and have fun, be competitive, be respectful too. Respect, as we talked about last time, respectful to your umpires, officials, coaches, everybody. Just everyone go have a fantastic weekend. And if you, like I mentioned before, if you see Kara out there, go say hi. Get yourself on the podcast. Come on. Can't just be me talking all the time. I don't think we all want to just keep hearing me. Although I am going to point out, if you have not noticed, we finally did change the music. It had to be changed. If you were liking that music, I can send you the file. You can play it all you want. It had to be changed. It was something every week having to. It wasn't even my call either. I actually kind of got used to it for a little bit, but it had to be changed. So we'll be back in 2 weeks for episode 6, and we finally get to stop just talking about softball. We finally get to play the game, and next week we'll be able to dive in to see what happened over the opening weekend, see where everybody stands. Competition now, remember said, see where the standings are. Have a good weekend, everybody. Be safe. Have fun. Take care.